Hi, this is Nick from Studio 1807. I wanted to start by showing you how to use the autopod feature with Adobe Premiere. First, we're going to start out by having our files that we're going to have from our three cameras. What I typically do here is I name them in pairs so that you can kind of, if you have two clips, in this particular case, the recorder stopped because they had two different guests, and then the four audio files. So what you're going to want to do is go into Adobe Premiere and start a project. So when you start a project, I'm just going to create one here, go to my desktop here and find my files. If I can find my files. There it is. So let's click there, and then we're going to highlight all these, and then we're going to create, just hit replace if it pops up. And then it should open up. What I do at this point is I delete all the files on my timeline because they're in bad order. So what the next thing I'm going to do is create add tracks, or add tracks, plural. Here I'm going to give myself another 3 and another 3 audios, just so that I have some room to work with as I navigate these. Now, the next thing we're going to do here is drag and drop. I like to start out with the hosts. Since I named these hosts 1 and 2, I'm going to do 1 and then 2 afterwards. So this is our 2 segments that we're doing. So I'm going to match off all the ones. We have the 1 guest here, which will go here, and match it off. And then we're going to go guest 2, and that goes back here. And we're going to do our wide 1, and then our wide 2, our wide angle shot. So this actually has our video files up here, and you can see the corresponding audio file that goes with it. Now we're going to have, I'm missing one audio file, so add tracks here. I'm actually going to need, let me give myself 2 more audio tracks. There you go. Because we have 4 actual mics that were used. So now what we can do is put our audio track 1, our audio track 2, our audio track 3, and our audio track 4 on our timeline. The very next step that we want to do now, and you can see our video here, so what we're going to want to do is highlight all of this one row first and then hit synchronize. And this will synchronize the audio. Just leave it as default to the audio track 1 and hit OK. This takes it a quick second to do. Just going to wait a quick minute. I'm not actually going to cut or speed up any of this, just because it's not going to take too long for most things, depending on processing power that you have or don't have. So give it one quick second here. These are very long files. This is almost, on my timeline here, I got 4.5 hours. It's a 3-hour track in total. One of the big things that we're going to do afterwards here, once this is done, we're going to cut these files so that they're all the same length. And being the same length is actually quite important. Mainly because the way autopod works, it has to have the same file sizes to kind of move forward. I don't know why, it's just their software, that's how it works. So we just work with the parameters they have, but it makes it super easy to do the post-processing. And if you wanted to color grade, you can. We're not color grading here. We're just handing this back to the client because you can color grade the whole track before it gets chopped up by the system. And it's taking longer than normal, to be honest with you. Come on, be done. There we go. All right, so now it's synchronized it, and you can see that there. So here I'm just going to scroll in. If you don't know, you just hold Alt and move your mouse wheel. So one of the things that I want to make sure I do is, like I mentioned here at the front, we're just going to cut so that we have one smooth clip, because a lot of times we hit the buttons at different times when we hit record before we ever even begin. And put that all the way to the front timeline. There you go. And then we're going to do the same thing at the back of the file here, except here we're not going to delete it. On the video clips are fine. It's just when we hit the stop button. But down here on the audio files, because we still need those audio files for the second clip because we have one large audio file. So our first one is kind of done. Now we're going to grab these and go to our second clip and synchronize again. We want to synchronize the audio for the second clip. You can't do this while it's still attached to the first file. Keep that in mind. Main reason is it's gonna grab both the file and shift it over, because remember, it created a gap here as working space, if that makes better sense. So I'm gonna hit pause this time in the recording just until it's done doing its processing. All right, it is done processing. If you ever notice, now we're gonna kind of look at the video here before I cut, because I was noticing this. If it ever cuts out frame like that for whatever reason, just right click and then put scale to frame size, and it'll put it the correct frame size. And just always double check your video clips to make sure they're good. So they're good here, and they're good there, and then here we have the same problem on our wide file, so we're just going to scale to frame size, and there you go. Very simple fix to that issue. So now we're going to do the same thing over here. Is we're going to cut our file so that it matches off again, so that it's a smooth transition between the two files. We always grab the shortest one here, and then we just cut through. There you go. And this is in between the break time, just people talking in the room, because again, we record the whole audio file. This is always faster. There you go. Just zoom it a bit more. And we're going to do the same thing at the end of the clip here. Right, so at the very end of the clip, the cameras are still on, but you know, the recorder stopped because that's what order it was stopped in. There you go. So now we have two files that are the same size, 1 series and 2 series. Now what we can do is we can actually unlink our, I'm just unhiding these, we can unlink our audio files, because now we don't want this audio file, because these audio files down here are going to be superior to these up here. Because the ones that go into the camera, sometimes you can't regulate it as well. So you'll notice here if I hit mute and then you kind of play it.
Says, but my uncle's gun is missing.
And on these, we can adjust, you know, what audio files we have and whatnot. And I know we only use 3 mics. I believe this is the mic we didn't use, because it's just sitting over here on the side. So that one we're just going to actually delete entirely because we don't need it. And you can tell by the extremely low volumes in the space there of the room, because you can see people not talking on this one audio track. So what we'll do now is come here and unlink. So it's just right click here and hit unlink the audio files, and then we can get rid of the audio files. Do the same thing with the next series and unlink. And then we can just highlight and delete these. Now, the slightly tricky bit here, we have to figure out which audio file is who talking. It's always going to be the same track. It's either going to be the host, the guest, or the wide, or one of the 3. So, hang on here. So this is our guest here.
Go ahead. How'd it happen? Okay, so
with knowing that this is our guest, we're going to put this on audio track 2 because we have it as the second one here. So let's mute that and unmute this one. And this sounds like it's going to be this guest right here. I'm just waiting for them to speak to just confirm.
So the question is,
yep. So that's her right here. So we know the second track here. So we could put her as host 1, and then we will put Brittany here as host 2. So now we have our audio files. At this point, what I like to do is actually save my file. And the main reason why I'm saving this is because I want to make sure that I don't run into issues in the event of in the event anything goes wrong. So I saved my files a few times. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab all these and just put them together. This creates one long episode. So at this point now we're actually, let me just hit save one more time here. And then you're going to go up here to Windows if you already have it installed, and you're going to hit Autopod Multi-Camera Editor. The editor is going to pop up, and you just have to remember a couple things. And you remember us saying the people here. So we have 3 cameras, and we actually have 3 speakers. So audio 1 was, in this case, we'll call it host 1, and I'm going to mark a D. I'm not trying to give away all their names. This was the guest that we put, guest 1, and this will be host 2, and that's B. And we can double check here if we're really unsure.
Singing.
So, yeah. So there you go. So now we have our guests versus our hosts separated here. So now what we can do with this, and let me try to expand this out for you. All right, so a couple things we can change here. In terms of the frequency, we go to the medium shot. It's going to kind of cut out to this. I suggest high. It kind of frequently goes there, and it's a nice shot of the whole view. And then ignore cuts. So what this means effectively, if someone kind of laughs or does something, it's not going to automatically turn the camera to them every 1 second. I would say about 2.5 seconds is probably ideal, because you don't want it shifting constantly. So now down here, after we've named the guests here, we're going to name what cameras they're attached to. So video 1, let's unmark here. So video 1, so we can go back to our timeline. This is going to be our hosts. So, but it's host, we're going to do host 1 because it kind of matches the audio files, right? So host 1 and host 2, right? So both of our hosts are on that one. Our guest is on camera visual V2, visual 2, and then this one here is going to be our wide shot, which is all speakers. So once you have that all set, and this is kind of the important bit here, once you have this set, and again, standard cutter method, I don't really mess with a lot of the other things here, it will cut. So check this out. This is the most impressive part of editing your video. I'm going to click edit the video, and it will chop this up based on when people are speaking or not speaking. I'm not going to stop or do anything here so you can really see at the pace in which this works. And again, this is a 2.5 hour video clip after we've cut it up. So this can save monumental amount of time. All you really have to do afterwards is edit the parts you don't want included, add your intro or your outro, or if you have sponsors somewhere in there. But those are much easier breaks than figuring out when people are talking. There it goes. And you'll see all the little cuts that it's doing based on when people are speaking, and when it goes to kind of a wide shot, a lot of people talking versus the frequency of when it wants to kind of transition to that. And you can tell with their show, because here they have a little intro kind of bit to their show, and then they kind of get the guests talking and sharing their experience. So you get a little bit of both in this transition, and you can see that here based on when people are speaking. There you have it. That's how long it took to do all these edits, all these little cuts, all these little breaks for 2.5 hours, which is a lot to go back in and do. Anyway, that's my video. Let me know if you have any other questions. Thank you. At this point, you just export.